Hello, beautiful homemakers. We're continuing Chapter 7, Secret Number 4 of Secrets of Fascinating Womanhood. The last paragraph I read was, "A woman who supports herself or continually sacrifices and does without will not be loved as deeply as a woman who asks her husband for her needs. It's better that our husbands spoil us a little. Really, it is." Angela, you have something to say? Yes, I'm just trying to take all this in. It's so different from what I've always believed. In fact, it sounds too good to be true. Yet, it sounds so right. But I have a question. What if a woman is better than her husband at managing the finances? I know I am, and so I've always managed them. Yes, Angela, most wives are better than their husbands at balancing and paying accounts. There can also be a heady and somewhat masculine feeling of power and satisfaction in doing so, especially when there's enough money to go around. However, that feeling of power and satisfaction rightly belongs to our husband. Our old enemy, female pride, is coming in here again. But sooner or later the time comes when there isn't enough money to go around. Then you have to do the worrying and not your husband. He is insulated from the worry and does not experience the natural male urge in such circumstances to work harder and earn more money. It puts you in a very unfeminine position. Another common problem when you manage the finances is that it often puts your husband in the position where he must ask you for money. This can be painful to his sensitive masculine pride. He is belittled in his own eyes. It can arouse much resentment in his heart and trigger many arguments. And if he buys you an expensive gift, you might think how the money might have been better spent. You will almost certainly think this if he buys one for himself. Fascinating Womanhood says give the finances to your husband. If he doesn't know how to manage them, let him learn. Cherry, you want to say something? Well, yes, I agree with you that our husbands should manage the finances, and my husband wants to. But whenever I've let him, he's always got us into debt. I become a nervous wreck. I've always had to take them back over again. What can I do? This is a common problem, Cherry. Ideally, this is the way to handle it, and it's tough. When a woman hands back the finances to her husband, she must let go completely. She must turn her back on it, come what may. No checking up, no questions. If he makes a mess of it, let him suffer the consequences. Refer all debt collectors to him. Don't shield him in any way. He must suffer. That is the only way he will learn. With experience and time, he will learn to cope. Be prepared mentally to lose all your possessions if necessary. It seldom comes to that, however. Always remember, especially as you watch him suffer, that you are building a man whom the Bible tells us will live forever. This is the man who is your lifelong companion, your number one. He will be twice the man when he finally masters his weakness. Not only will he be a more successful provider, he will have far greater self-confidence. To use the common vernacular, your husband has to feel like a real man before he can love you deeply. He can't feel like a real man when he has to come and ask you for money. He can't feel like a real man when he sees you sick with worry over not being able to pay a bill. Now it's very, very important when your husband is going through a financial crisis that you live all the secrets of fascinating womanhood. Otherwise, he may become too depressed to cope. He must be sincerely praised and admired for every little success along the way. Elsie spoke. I believe what you say will work in most cases, but I think there will still be a few men who will never learn to discipline their spending. I have a son like that. Money has burnt a hole in his pocket ever since he was a little boy. Without his wife to control his spending, I dread to think what would happen." "Well, yes, Elsie, this can be a real problem with some men, and women, too. There is an answer, however. If we have handed the finances over to our husband completely, and let him suffer the full consequences of his irresponsibility, and after a year or two he still shows no sign of curbing his chronic overspending, then we can fall back on this compromise plan, but only as a last resort. In this compromise plan, your husband deliberately delegates all large purchases and bill paying to you. He needs to do this willingly, mind you, and he must still feel that he's in overall control. One way to do this is for you both to sit down and under his direction work out a yearly budget together. As part of this budget, he allocates himself an allowance for his personal expenses. This is the opposite of what we discussed earlier, where you, the wife, are giving an allowance. His allowance really needs to be paid into a personal bank account so that his masculine pride is not belittled by his wife handing him cash each week. Or you can also fill an envelope and then put it in a drawer and use the envelope system. However, he must never be insulated from the true financial position. He needs to have input into all major purchases and should authorize all the larger payments. He also needs to see the remaining bank balance every month. And when you have money left over and you're still handling the finances, you build them up and say, "It's so wonderful to have enough money to pay all the bills. Thank you for being such a great provider." This plan is rather like the boss of a small company who delegates the bill paying and purchasing to an office clerk. The boss is still responsible and authorizes all the large purchase orders and sees all the large bills before authorizing payment. Yet the clerk organizes the purchases and payments within the budget set by the boss. Thank you, Harmony. That sounds like a very good solution for a spendthrift husband. And I do believe that is how most families handle money when the woman is better with the finances and the man really detests it. Angela raised her hand. "Yes, Angela. I like what I'm hearing, but I'm still puzzled about something. I went back to work last year as a primary school teacher. My husband had just started his own car repair business, so I mainly went back to work to help with the expenses. I used nearly all my take-home pay for the household budget. I thought he would be grateful to me over this, but instead he began criticizing me worse than ever. It really hurt. Why didn't he appreciate what I was doing?" A look of concern came over the teacher's face. "Angela, if you think about it, I'm sure you'll understand why. Did your husband ask you to go out to work?" "Well, no. He was against it at first, but we needed the money, and I was able to earn more than him at the time." "Were you showing confidence in your husband's business ability by going out to work?" Angela felt her face begin to burn. Her thoughts raced. Could that have been the problem? Surely not. But he did change so quickly. But she was only trying to help him. The teacher continued. "A man needs to feel that his wife depends on him and trusts him. He needs to feel important. He needs to feel that he is excelling in his masculine role of provider. Almost always a woman's decision to go out to work worsens a marriage difficulty." "Yes, what you say is true," said Kathy. "My husband doesn't want me to go out to work. I did once for a few months, but boy, was he a grouch. Luckily I didn't earn more than him. I don't know what might have happened to our marriage if I had." Diane raised her hand. Yes, Diane? Are you saying a woman shouldn't go out to work? No, Diane. But Fascinating Womanhood says that she does pay a price. A husband will always feel more of a man when he fully provides for his wife by his own efforts. A man likes to feel that you really need him, that you are dependent on him, that he is important. He will love you more tenderly and deeply when you are dependent on him. It's a big part of his masculine feeling of fulfillment. Even when it's his idea that you go out to work, and it often is, a newer car or a bigger TV can be very tempting, but he will still love you more deeply if he can provide these things for his family by his own efforts. We, too, of course, need to play our part. We must try and live within the income of our husband. Typically, the amount he can earn working a normal 40 or 45-hour week. We should not expect him to work long hours or all weekend away from the company of his family or unhealthy night shifts. Nor should we expect luxuries he cannot afford at the present time. Luxuries will come later as his career develops more fully and his income increases. And this nearly always happens when we boost our man's self-confidence by living the principles of fascinating womanhood. Why do women go out to work? Let's be honest now. What are the real reasons? Angela told us that she went out to work to help her husband financially. Not many husbands appreciate that, not deep down, though they gladly accept the extra money, but something dies within them. They feel less manly. It nearly always results in a lessening of their tenderness and love. What other reasons are there why women go out to work? Boredom. I work because I get bored sitting at home, said Diane. Yes, boredom is a common reason, but does a woman have to be bored at home? We learn how to be happier at home in secret number 6. Any other reasons? Yes, Beth? Fulfillment. Women go out to work to find fulfillment. That's why I have a career. I'm pregnant now, but I still plan to carry on my career after my baby is born. Fulfillment? Yes. Many women believe they will find fulfillment in a man's world. You may find our next 2 secrets thought-provoking, Beth. Let me suggest the real reason why most married women work. Whether we admit it or not, isn't it to buy luxuries? Come on, let's be honest. I know we can always come up with more noble reasons, but what if we asked ourselves, if I was not allowed to spend the money I earned myself, would I still want to go out to work, or would I rather stay at home? What if all your earnings had to go into a savings account and you could never touch it? We're touching on female pride here again. Now, I'm not against luxuries, but we often pay a high cost for them in the loss of our husband's love. Even when he himself encourages us to go out to work, he gives up some of his masculinity. Very often he is the one who most wants the luxuries, but he will still not be able to feel as tender towards you as he did before. There are no luxuries worth the loss of human love. Ask any lonely millionaire, male or female. And I want to add that most men who want their wife to work want that because they don't want to come home to a woman like Peg Bundy sitting on the couch eating bonbons and whining. But if men came home to women who fed them and were eager to see them, they would be happy for you to stay home. There's another aspect of going out to work that can seriously lessen love in our marriage. Work often brings a wife into the unnatural situation of taking directions from another man and working in close contact with him. She sees this man daily at his dynamic best, and then returns home to her husband at his weary worst. This can easily breed dissatisfaction toward a husband in any woman. The teacher continued, "Now I don't want to embarrass Beth, but I believe it's clearly not right for a woman to work when she has preschool children at home, nor for a woman to be still out working when her children come home after school. Even our conscience plainly tells us that this is not right. Only in a severe financial emergency should a mother deprive her children of her presence by going out to work. We can rationalize about quality time, but what our children really need is the secure feeling of knowing that Mom's at home and all is normal. We just need to be there. An empty house breeds insecurity in a child. A school psychologist once said that a common complaint he hears from emotionally disturbed teenagers is that there's nothing worse than coming home to an empty house and waiting for Mom to come home. Oh, our children are so very, very important. We mothers have incredible power to influence our children for good and to build their self-confidence. They need to know that we are there at home. They need to feel that we care about them." If you'd like to read my story about how I went from breadwinner to homemaker, you can get it on Amazon. It's called How to Thrive on One Income. Well, that's our lesson for tonight, class. These first 4 secrets of fascinating womanhood are by far the most powerful. They are to do with meeting our man's deepest emotional needs. When we meet these emotional needs in our husband, he is stirred within to respond to us and to treat us tenderly and lovingly. By living the fascinating womanhood truths, we cause our husband to become deeply in love with us. In fact, we can cause almost any man to fall deeply in love with us, so we must use this knowledge responsibly. To entice another woman's husband is a serious sin in the eyes of God. We will never find happiness that way. The next 6 secrets help us to become more contented and fascinating as women, more lovable to our husband, so that he will not only love us, he will worship us. I promise you all that when you live fascinating womanhood fully, the happiest days of your marriage lie ahead of you. Now, there are 2 assignments to do this week. The first one might seem a little childish to us as women, but it will have a deep symbolic effect on our husbands. Bev, you won't let me down this week, will you? I'll do my best, said Bev, going redder than normal. Assignments. Secret number 4. Assignment 1. Draw up a certificate of leadership made from cardboard, or make some other symbol of leadership that will last a lifetime, and present it as an entire family if possible to your husband. Tell him, and really mean it, that from now on you will all follow his leadership 100%. Assignment 2. If you are managing the finances or any other masculine role, say to your husband in your own words, "I don't want this responsibility any longer. It's a burden for me. You're a man. It's much easier for you." Our 2 visitors tonight are Rosemary and Karen. I'm so grateful to you both for coming along tonight. Can we hear from you first, Rosemary, and then from you, Karen? Rosemary, a true experience. The turning point in my marriage came dramatically when I learned through fascinating womanhood of the separate responsibilities of husband and wife. During the 6 years we have been married, my husband has handed all but a small amount of his salary over to me to spend and pay bills as I wanted. After that class, the one we had tonight, I drove home with my mind made up that I didn't want control of the money. I approached my husband by saying that I could no longer carry the burden of handling the finances, that he could do it much better, and that all the worry was getting me down, and that I was not doing a very good job. Well, he just exploded. He said, "So, you don't want to worry. Tough. You're going to, because I don't want it. If you haven't done a good job, it's your fault. And you're going to learn to do a good job. And you're going to continue." He walked around saying that he never had a say in the money or what I did. I promised him I would change, and he just laughed, as though he did not believe me. I was crying by this time. He was so angry he threw all the books and bills on his footstool. I then asked him to read from my fascinating womanhood book, where it talks about a man's God-given role of being a leader, provider, and protector. He was quiet for a little while, and then a very small smile came across his face, and he said to please bring all the bills, bank books, and check books. He worked from 10:30 p.m. until midnight. The next week he gave me $25, saying he had that much extra and to go buy some things I had been wanting. My husband has complete control of the money now, and I'm very happy. I now ask my husband for what I need. I know he will give it to me, if he can afford it. Karen, a true experience. My biggest problem was love. I had not been taught what love was like. Accepting my husband was the key for me. Wow, how I love that man now. No more picking. He's too perfect. He has his faults, but not many. He's the boss, and how wonderful it is to have a man to lean on. He makes the decisions. Since it's been this way, he always makes them in my favor, and consults me frequently. I turned the budget over to him. It was a mess. I told him how it affected me to worry about it. I just get sick thinking about finances. I asked him the other day how we were making out, and he said, "Don't you worry about it. I've got it all figured out." And he has, too, right to the cent. I feel great. I could go on forever. The happiness we share is the most beautiful and precious possession I have. I no longer look longingly at those few successful and happily married couples. You know, the ones that glow, because now we are one of them. Aren't they delightful experiences, class? Thank you both so much, Rosemary and Karen. Well, that closes tonight's lesson. Remember the experience Rosemary has just shared with us. She was relieved of the burden of finances within hours of her lesson. By the way, how are your love books coming along? Elsie reached into her purse and held up a little red notebook. Very good, Elsie, said the teacher, beaming. See you all next week. Good night. Bye.